Have you ever looked at a map and wondered how one people sharing thousands of years of history could end up divided by one of the most heavily fortified borders in the world? Today, we're diving deep into the complex, often tragic and sometimes hopeful story of North and South Korea. This isn't just about politics and headlines. It's a human story of separation, resilience, and the enduring question of reunification. To truly understand the Korean Peninsula today, we have to travel back in time. For centuries, Korea was a unified kingdom, boasting a rich culture and a unique identity, often navigating complex relationships with its powerful neighbors like China and Japan. But the 20th century brought turmoil. Japan's colonial rule from 1910 to 1945 was a period of immense suffering and cultural suppression, but it also ironically sowed the seeds of a shared national identity forged in resistance. The end of World War II should have been a moment of liberation. Instead, it became the genesis of division. As a solution to disarming the Japanese forces, the victorious Allied powers, specifically the United States and the Soviet Union, made a fateful decision. They drew a line across the 38th parallel, with the Soviets occupying the north and the Americans the south. This was meant to be a temporary measure, a short-term administrative solution. No one at the time imagined it would become a permanent ideological battleground. In the north, the Soviet Union backed a young, charismatic anti-Japanese guerrilla leader named Kim Il-sung. He swiftly consolidated power, establishing a communist state, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK. His ideology of Jukki, or self-reliance, became the state's guiding principle, isolating the nation and creating a powerful cult of personality that continues with his grandson, Kim Jong-un, today. The state took control of all aspects of life, from the economy to personal freedoms, building a society fundamentally different from what was emerging in the South. Meanwhile, in the South, the United States supported the anti-communist Syngman Rhee, who became the first president of the Republic of Korea, or ROK. The South pursued a path of capitalism and, after a period of authoritarian rule, eventually transitioned into the vibrant, high-tech democracy we know today. This stark divergence in political and economic systems set the stage for inevitable conflict. The simmering tensions finally exploded on June 25, 1950. North Korean troops stormed across the 38th parallel, aiming to reunify the peninsula by force. The Korean War had begun. This was not just a civil war. It became the first major armed conflict of the Cold War. The United Nations, led by the United States, intervened on behalf of the South, while China, fearing a U.S. allied presence on its border, entered the war to support the North. For 3 years, the peninsula was ravaged. Cities were turned to rubble, and millions of lives, both military and civilian, were lost. The front lines surged back and forth from the southern tip of the peninsula all the way to the Chinese border and back again. The fighting was brutal, a devastating chapter that left deep scars on the Korean psyche. The war ended in 1953, but not with a peace treaty. It ended with an armistice, a ceasefire. This means that, technically, North and South Korea are still at war. The armistice established the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, a 2.5-mile wide, 150-mile-long buffer that ironically has become one of the most militarized borders on Earth. It's a stark, physical symbol of the nation's division, separating families and cementing the two Koreas on their separate paths. In the decades that followed, the two Koreas couldn't have developed more differently. South Korea, with significant U.S. aid and an emphasis on export-led industrialization, experienced what's known as the miracle on the Han River. It transformed from a war-torn agrarian society into one of the world's largest economies, a global leader in technology and pop culture. Companies like Samsung and Hyundai became household names, and K-pop and Korean cinema took the world by storm. North Korea, on the other hand, pursued its path of Jukki and military-first policies. While it had a brief period of economic advantage over the South in the 1960s, its rigid, state-controlled economy eventually stagnated. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 meant the loss of a crucial benefactor, leading to a devastating famine in the mid-1990s, a period known as the Arduous March, where hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, perished. In response to its isolation and economic struggles, the DPRK increasingly focused its resources on its nuclear weapons and missile programs, seeing them as the ultimate guarantee of the regime's survival against perceived threats, particularly from the United States. So, where does that leave the relationship today? It's a roller coaster of tension and tentative outreach. We see periods of extreme hostility with missile tests and fiery rhetoric followed by surprising moments of diplomacy like the inter-Korean summits in 2018 where Kim Jong-un and then South Korean President Moon Jae-in shook hands over the military demarcation line and spoke of peace and denuclearization. These moments of hope are often short-lived. The fundamental issues remain unresolved. North Korea views its nuclear arsenal as non-negotiable for its security, while South Korea and its ally, the United States, demand complete denuclearization as a precondition for lasting peace and the lifting of crippling economic sanctions. It's a classic diplomatic stalemate. But the relationship is more than just geopolitics. It's about people. Millions of families were torn apart by the war. The first generation is now in their 80s and 90s, and their time is running out. Highly emotional, government-arranged family reunions have offered brief, tearful meetings for a lucky few, but for most, the separation is permanent. For younger generations in South Korea, the idea of reunification is becoming more abstract. They've grown up with a powerful, wealthy South Korea and a distant, threatening North. The immense economic cost of integrating the two vastly different economies is a major concern. Many question whether it's even desirable anymore. Yet, the shared language, culture, and history still resonate. The dream of a unified Korea, a dream that has cost so much blood and tears, hasn't completely faded. Looking forward, the path is uncertain. Will there be a major breakthrough in diplomacy, leading to peace and denuclearization? Or will the status quo of tension and periodic crises continue? Could there be an internal collapse in North Korea, creating a massive humanitarian and security crisis? Or will the two Koreas find a way to coexist peacefully, slowly building trust through cultural and economic exchanges, even if formal reunification remains a distant dream? The story of North and South Korea is a powerful reminder of how ideology and geopolitics can divide a people. It's a story of two different worlds existing side by side, a story of enduring pain, but also of incredible resilience and a flicker of hope for a shared future. What do you think the future holds for the Korean Peninsula? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you found this deep dive interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the complex world we live in. See you next time.